Okay, let's roll into our post-race winning driver for today's 30th annual drive for COPD 300 here at Daytona International Speedway, and the season opener for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. And the race winner is Tony Stewart. He drives the number 4 Oreo Rich Chevrolet for Delana Harvick, and this is Tony's 4th straight win in this race. He's won his 10.
We'll wait. You take your time.
Let me get it out. I'm in a little trouble here, Tony. I'm choked up. This is your 10th NASCAR Nationwide Series victory, and certainly you've shown just your ability to get around the 2.5-mile super speedway here at Daytona. Congratulations. Your thoughts about today's win?
Wow. It's the first thing. It's I knew we had a good car in practice. We didn't qualify as good as we were hoping for, obviously, but we were pretty sure we knew that we were going to race a lot better than we practiced, obviously, but or than qualifying. But we got to the front pretty early there, and once we got with Clint, it was we knew if we could stay together all day that we were going to be a pretty potent combination. We felt like, obviously it shaped up to be between the KHI cars and the Gibbs cars, and it didn't seem like it mattered what order Clint and I were in. We could run longer before we would have to switch with each other than the Gibbs cars were able to do, and we were sacrificing the speed to get air in the grill, but I think they were staying in line and just running to get maximum speed, but they were having to switch earlier than we were because of that. So it was kind of you didn't really know which strategy was the best, really, but it was one or the other. You either went for ultimate speed and switched when you needed to, or sacrifice the speed for the cooling and try to do less exchanges with each other. And we had the caution there where we would have started on the front together, and we had the flat tire under the caution, and I didn't realize that we had as many cars a lap down as what we had, but that was what saved us in that is we were able to come in, put 4 tires on, and restart 11th, and didn't tear. The tire didn't come apart when it went flat. We were able to get around to the pits without it coming apart and tearing the body off. So that was a huge key in this race. Really was that flat tire, and if we didn't have the flat, it was going to be a little easier going, but we had other guys that pitted there, and Landon Castle came out, and he restarted 9th. We restarted behind him, and we knew he had a good car, and that if we could get hooked up with him, we could get through some of the cars in front of us. I just wasn't sure if we could get all the way to the front, and we went for that ultimate speed scenario to try to get through there, and Landon did a good job of making some good moves to get through traffic, and by the time we got there, that we were fighting the heat issue, and so when 2 of the cars in front of us swapped and I made the decision for us, we didn't have time to get with the spotter and make that decision, and it was just kind of it's like calling an audible, I guess, but pulled a swap with him, and that got us back a little bit, but we were released with the 2 groups that we needed to be around, and just Landon pushed and did a really good job, and we got that momentum built, and we never had to check up. We never were in a scenario at the end where we had to break that momentum. So the other guys were up front, and we had the benefit of having the pocket of air that we were in to get the momentum, and just ran them down and got there in just enough time.
Okay, Tony, we'll take questions now for Tony Stewart. We'll start back here with Jenna, and then we'll go right over here to Dean. Go ahead, Jenna.
Jennifer, Associated Press, you're probably going to yell at me because you're not a bookie in Vegas, but had you not gotten the flat tire and you'd restarted second, do you maybe not win because, and I know it's hypothetical, but because you the way it's played out for these second place cars and even the leaders there in those situations?
Yeah, and I'd talked to Clint before the race, and I had told him that if we were running second and he was leading, and we had a pack around us, that I was going to just keep pushing. I wanted to make sure a Kevin Harvick Inc. car won today. So, that's the hard part, is making that decision when you got teammates that you might have to make that decision to not try to win the race in an effort for the organization. And I think it definitely could have done that. I mean, but it's best case scenario is what happened for us, and we still end up 1-2. But it definitely, that wasn't the easier of the routes. It would have been a lot easier to be able to restart with my teammate there, and but there is that potential that we probably would have had to just stay in line like that, and I probably would have ran second instead of first.
Go ahead, Dean.
Dean McNulty, Toronto Sun. Tony, was there ever a moment when you thought, as a 21-year-old rookie I'm hooked up with, is this a good idea?
Landon's not new to this. I mean, he hasn't ran. I don't think he's ever got a chance to run a full season in Nationwide, but I mean, he's been around a long time. So, we were watching when he was with the 22 car, and they were able to stay up there with us in that pack. And you don't do that by being all over the place. So, I had the confidence at the end just from being able to watch him when it was myself and Clint and the two Gibbs cars, and then the 22 and Landon running together. We got a chance to see him running it today, and he ran a good race up to that point, so we had the confidence that he was going to be good and fast at the end.
Let's go back here to Jerry, then we'll go Holly, and then Viv.
Jerry Jordan, the Examiner newspaper. Landon was in here saying that he was taking directions and just kind of following you. What were you telling him, and how exactly did that work?
Well, I think when we got ready for that last restart and we were actually behind him, they kind of sent a message to us that if we got ahead of him, that he would go with us, and that gives you the confidence that if you need to, you know that you don't have to worry about whether somebody's going to follow you. You got a partner that you can go with, and there wasn't any point in us trying to get ahead of him at that point because he was fast, and he was making good decisions. I mean, he made a couple really good moves in that traffic to get us up in that spot. The hard part is I just couldn't keep pushing the way I was. I mean, we were pushing for maximum speed. We weren't getting any cooling to the car, so that was a decision that when I saw those two guys split in 1 and 2 and go for their exchange, it gave me the confidence to do it at the same time, and that we weren't going to lose. All four cars weren't just going to run away from us because we separated and made that switch. So, I thought he did a good job. I thought he ran a good race today, and that really worked into our favor at the end to have somebody like him that was back there with us.
Let's go to Holly, and then we'll go to Viv. Go ahead, Holly.
Holly Kane, AOL Sports. Did you realize you had won the race? How long did it take? And you said you hadn't seen a replay yet. Does winning a race like that feel as amazing to you as it is to everyone that's watching it? I mean, that was a good race.
When it comes down to that close to the end, absolutely. And I don't know how far we won it by. I know what the margin of victory was, but I don't know what that equates to in inches. But it was enough that I felt like when we got to the line, I called on the radio and I told him I thought we won it right away. I mean, just off of where the position of the cars were, I thought we were ahead.
Go ahead, Viv.
If not, I was going to look really stupid saying I won, and no, you didn't. So.
If Bernstein, New York Times, you've had a lot of success at this track, but not necessarily in the Sunday race. I mean, do you walk in confident, nervous? I mean, how do you approach that race after all that's happening in the 500?
Well, the good thing is, I mean, I'm probably the happiest guy going into tomorrow now. I mean, we're coming off of a win today, so it shows we can do it. It's just a matter of whether the cards play out tomorrow. I mean, it's a tough group. It's a tough race tomorrow, and physically for the drivers, mentally for the drivers, this is in my opinion, be one of the toughest 500s I've ever ran. Is what we're going to run tomorrow, because it's what we're doing inside the cars is a lot harder than it's ever been. With pushing guys and being pushed and the way that it gets the cars walking around the racetrack. So, I think about it too, because the first thing I thought about is, man, here we go with another Saturday that we win, and are we going to have bad luck tomorrow now? So, but I think you got to look at the positive side and say, hey, we had a good day today. The race tomorrow is a similar race to what we ran here today. So, hopefully we can transfer it and keep some of that luck for tomorrow.
Other questions? This young lady right here.
What are you reading, the nutritional value off your water bottle there?
Oh. I'm good. Nothing on there. Go ahead.
Sorry.
It's all right. A long speed week. Go ahead.
It's been a long off season. Apparently, he's bored already. But curious as to how much you learned today that you'll be able to apply tomorrow, especially with the overheating situation on running in pairs.
I think it was, I I never really liked the pushing part anyway when it first started at Talladega a couple years ago, and obviously last fall that's what was the deciding factor in it. And then obviously coming here, we've all had to, whether you like it or not, you have to do it. You have to get used to it, and today was just more practice for tomorrow, really. And I felt more comfortable after. I was doing stuff today that I wasn't able to do yesterday in the Cup car, and stuff that I hadn't really practiced, and it was good to have this time today to help get ready for tomorrow, hopefully.
Let's go Mike Vega, then over here to Dwight, and then Greg. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Tony, I know you don't want to divulge the playbook here, but did you get any kind of tactical knowledge on how to handle this finish? Because it seems like the guy who's out front has been the sitting duck in almost every race we've seen here.
Yeah, we just were kind of we were in a lucky spot where we were when we came off of 2 on the last lap, and there was a pretty big gap between us and Clint and Dale Jr., and we just had that momentum build up from when the Gibbs cars were tied together and side by side with those 2 guys, and it wasn't till we got almost 2/3 of the way down the backstretch before I realized how big a run we actually had going. And I wasn't sure when we came off of 2 if we were going to get to them, let alone have the ability to do something. But we got into 3, and it's like we're gonna be here before the exit of the corner. It was just I was worried about having to run uphill and go to the outside and have to run the car uphill and breaking the momentum. And obviously Dale Jr. is a great restrictor plate driver and knows what to do to break that momentum when you get there. And I don't know if he was paying more attention to Clint and knew where we were at, or if we caught him off guard. But it's a tough spot for him to be in, knowing what decision to make and whether you separate and try to block or not. So we were able to keep that momentum going, and I think we actually pulled their momentum down, being able to side draft them off of 4. And it's so hard to plan what the scenario is going to be. I think a lot of it's just you're going to have to call it as you see it, and it wouldn't surprise me that somebody's going to make the wrong decision tomorrow and go, I lost because I made the wrong decision and went too early or too late. There's a lot of potential to not time it right.
Let's go with Dwight, Greg, and then over here to Marty. Go ahead.
Dwight Drum, racestake.com. Tony, could you compare those 4 wins? I mean, a lot changed in between. Now even the track changed, is there a way you could kind of compare?
The odd thing is, I guess we've won 6 out of the last 7 here, and there wasn't one of the 6 that the scenario was even remotely close to being the same. And that's the part that's ironic, because you'd think, man, there's got to be the scenario has to double up eventually, and 6 wins here, and none of them have been the same from the others. So it's ironic. I mean, it shows you that you can't predict what's going to happen. It's impossible to do that.
Let's go Greg, and then over here to Marty. Go ahead, Greg.
GregEngleExaminer.com. NASCAR is giving you half an inch tomorrow opening on the cooling inlets. Is that going to make a difference? And B, where do you want to be on coming out of turn 4 tomorrow? Do you want to be would you rather be the pusher or the blocker?
Man, I don't know. That's the part that's hard. It's like, you'd think after we've been here all this time this week that you'd have a game plan on where to be, but it's, I don't know that you're going to have that luxury of saying this is where I want to be. I just think you're going to have to make that decision as it's unfolding. We didn't know when we took the white flag that, we were 5th and 6th when we took the white flag. Who would have ever guessed we were going to have a shot to get them by the time we got to turn 3? So I don't know that anybody's going to be able to really dictate where they want to be. I think the scenarios are going to play out, and you're either going to be in the right spot or you're going to be in the wrong spot. I'm sure it will. I mean, obviously the temperatures the last couple of days have been warmer than what we've had all week, so that it's probably just. The thing that I worry about is getting so many cars all close together and then guys having to swap, and when they go to swap, there's not room for them to move and running out of room, because I think the Cup race tomorrow will have more packs that are able to stay closer to the front, and I think that's going to make the exchanges more difficult. So getting more radiator opening will let us hopefully go a little bit further before we have to make those switches.
Let's go Marty, this gentleman here, and then back to Jenna.
Marty Smith, ESPN. We've seen this 2-car phenomenon, for lack of a better term, for a week now, and every single day nobody can really describe it other than it being weird and different. You've now had 3 races with it. Do you got a better description for me than weird and different?
No. It is weird and it is different. That's the hard part. It's something that we've all never really done before. I mean, until the COT car, you never had that opportunity. You would, if you tried to do what we're doing, you'd pick the guy's rear wheels off the ground and crash half the field. And we never had a surface that was smooth enough to allow us to do what we're doing here either. So, like we said, you look back the last 2 or 3 races at Talladega, and what we're doing here was shaping up back then, and building, and it's evolved to what we're doing here now, and it makes you think back to races with Petty and Pearson and some of the finishes there, and then now you look at 30-car packs that we would have, and now we went from 30-car packs to now 2-car packages together, and it's just the evolution of the sport and how things are changing. But I don't know what it's like to look at it and watch it, but I know what it's like to feel it. And when you're that third group and you catch a group that's running side by side and they can't get away from each other, and you're running 5 to 8 mile an hour faster, and the guy behind you can't tell if you want to slow down, you have to find a hole when you get there. And if you don't find one, you almost have to make one to a certain degree. But I can promise you this: the guys that are driving these things are watching out. Everybody's watching out for each other, because everybody knows that we can put each other in a bad spot in a hurry if we don't give each other room. I mean, you just don't see guys blocking like we've seen in the past. And I'll be honest, I didn't like the big packs that we used to have to run in, and I didn't like people that always had to block. I never agreed with that. And the good thing is we don't have to do either of those now with this package. I mean, you actually, if you get a run on a guy, you're going to make an opportunity to pass those guys, and you may not get it done, but at least you have that opportunity now.
Let's go right here, and then we'll go to Jenna, and then back to, is that Godwin? Okay.
Hi, Bill Hunnicky, the Trenton Times. Now that the Cup guys are not running for points in the series, do you sense any difference in the strategy among the Cup guys, the non-Cup guys, or is it just too early in the season that you're just going for the win and the hell with the points?
I think it's hard to anticipate that in one race, but I wasn't really in favor of that in the first place. I think if a guy makes the effort to run all the races and he gets the most points, he should win the championship. I didn't. It's not for me to decide whether it's the right thing or wrong thing to do, but I don't think it's. I think obviously now guys are just going to go out for the wins. It's not going to. They're not going to. They don't care about the points, so they probably are giving the Cup guys the opportunity to take more chances versus a guy that is running for points and has to think about if he crashes out.
Let's go to Jenna and then back to Godwin. Go ahead.
Tony, Landon was in here earlier talking about sort of the vicious cycle for young guys and how hard it is to get a ride because the sponsors don't want to spend the money on younger guys when they can get you or Kevin or Clint or something like that. What does he have to do? Do you think he's the points leader now and he has nothing lined up for next week? What does he have to do to get something?
I don't know. I wish I knew. I mean, we're still trying to sell races for Ryan's car right now, so it's tough for everybody, but. We saw the car owners kind of get in that phase about 3 or 4 years ago where, the manufacturers and the car owners were hiring kids like Landon and Josh Wise and hiring these guys really cheap and plugging them in and hoping that they were going to get odds on their money. And the problem is you got 43 Cup cars that start every Sunday. You got 43 nationwide cars, and you got all these drivers that got hired and nowhere to put them. And I blame the car owners and I blame the manufacturers for that, because there were guys like Josh Wise that drove for us left from winning a national championship to try to make it down here, and then for a moment there it didn't look like it was going to work out, and when he went to go back to racing what he was running before, he couldn't even get the rides that he was in. So a lot of the guys like Landon and Josh and some of these other guys have taken that leap of faith, and only to have car owners say, well, I don't have anywhere to put you, or I don't have the sponsorship to put you in something like that. So it's, I kind of thought that was I kind of blamed the car owners, honestly, more than I blamed anybody in that period of saying we had 4 driver development drivers at Gibbs, and we had three young Cup guys. Well, I wasn't young, but I mean, I was the youngest one of the group, and I was 34, 35. And it's like, I'm not planning on retiring. Denny's not planning on retiring. Where are you going to put these 4? Where are you going to put these 4 guys? You aren't going to have 7 Cup teams. So I wish there was an easy answer. There isn't an easy answer for them right now. I mean, it's competitive. I mean, there's more guys wanting to do this than ever, and the problem is the starting field size is the same as it's always been, and unless somebody quits or retires, it's hard to open up a seat for guys like that to advance.
Go ahead, Godwin.
Godwin Kelly, News Journal. Tony, you moved to second on the all-time win list at Daytona. Could you give me your comments and thoughts about that, please?
Who's first?
Dale Earnhardt
I
is
have to
first
ask.
with 34 wins, but you're tied now with Bobby Allison with 16 wins here at Daytona. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's going to take a while to hopefully get to 32, but I guess he's won 7 nationwide races, I guess, and we're at 6 now. So that's a pretty cool feeling to know. We've closed in on something that he's done here. I mean, this was his playground. I mean, you just watched him play with guys here. I mean, he was the best at this place, and to even be remotely close to him in the record books in anything here is very humbling.
Any other questions for Tony? I think we do have one in the press box. Go ahead.
You felt this might be your toughest Daytona 500. I know drivers probably think about a lot of things the night before a race like the Daytona 500, but do you suspect a lot of your fellow competitors are considering talking about things like mental and physical durability for this race tomorrow, considering how many of them have all talked about how difficult it is to do this for a long period of time?
I think it's as much mentally demanding as it is, more so than physically demanding. I mean, the track is as nice as it's ever been, and that makes the physical side of it easier. But the mental side of what we're doing and the learning process of learning how to do it is the stressful part. And especially when you have, today you've got a handful of pairs that knew what to do and knew how to do it right. Tomorrow there's going to be a lot more guys that are going to be really good at doing it, and that means we're going to have a closer field. We're going to have more guys that aren't going to be able to get away from each other doing this, and it is definitely going to be stressful. I mean, we're going to have some guys that look like soapy dish rags at the end of this race tomorrow because it is going to be very mentally taxing. I thought today that the scenarios we ran through would not happen till the last half of the race, and it started right off the front of the race and went through the whole day. I can almost 99.9% guarantee you that that's exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. They will start pairing up from the drop of the green flag, and for 500 miles, that's the way we're going to run this race.
Any other questions upstairs?
I'll change it to 100%. I'm that confident of it. There's no doubt in my mind that's going to happen.
No more questions.
Okay, back downstairs. Anything else for Tony? Okay, Tony, congratulations and best of luck tomorrow in the 53rd run of the Daytona 500.
Thank you, guys. I've been sick for 3 days.